Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Hub World Podcast. Today I will be your host, Gino. I am today joined by.
Matteo from the Hub World.
And Jules from the Hub World.
Yeah, and I thought I'd give things a go by taking the main chair here. And today we're going to be talking about the latest in the Marvel TV show series, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Everyone here, we've all watched through it, and just as a common courtesy to everyone who hasn't finished the series yet, we will be discussing spoilers and spoiler topics. So if you haven't finished watching the series yet, please kindly like and subscribe anyway. We're almost at 250 subscribers. It'd be really cool if we could hit that little milestone soon. But yeah, thank you for joining us this far. And from now on, we will be talking about spoilers for the show. Okay, guys. So yeah, the show's conclusion. And did anyone want to just start off by talking about what they thought about Falcon and the Winter Soldier for this run, the second shot Marvel has had with their TV show series?
I can say that, and this is completely subjective based off of my relative interest in the characters. But I thought that Falcon Winter Soldier was hella average. I enjoyed it. I still want to watch it every week. I appreciated the themes. I actually really enjoyed the themes of the show, and I like how they kind of framed Sam's journey as what does it mean for a black man to take on the shield, and I really liked that whole story, and I liked how they brought that lens into it. That being said, in terms of just pure story and how it relates to a larger universe, and thinking about just episode to episode, nothing really had me on the edge of my seat between the weeks. Even the major moment that most critics were calling the darkest moment in the MCU, to me was eh. I was I didn't think it was that big of a thing for me. Although I'm very excited for what this show has set up for the future. So while I appreciate the story, I think it needed to happen. And I'm excited for where this puts our characters. The show itself, for me, was very just average. Whereas with WandaVision, I was every episode, I was ooh, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? What the hell's going on? This show just didn't pull that for me personally.
Yeah, and I'm pretty much I feel almost exactly the same way you do about the show. I think it was, and I'm a Winter Soldier is one of my favorite characters in the MCU. So I was more excited for Falcon and Winter Soldier than I was WandaVision. But uh, I feel that I feel like it was incredibly average, just like how I felt WandaVision was, and it yeah like for WandaVision, Gino and I would stay up probably we stayed up till midnight, I think, for every episode of WandaVision, because at least there was some cliffhanger or something that would make us want to watch it right away so we don't get spoiled. But we only did that for the first and last episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and even in the first episode, I fell asleep partway through it, had to rewatch it the next day. So I feel like the show didn't have a lot, the pacing wasn't really that good in it, and I do like exactly what you said, how the character progressions for all the characters actually I really liked. But yeah, it's just that I don't know what it is. I just feel especially now with some news that came out today, Marvel's really gonna want, or Disney's gonna really want us to watch these shows to kind of understand what's going on in the movies or get more insight into the movies. But I just feel like they're not doing enough in the shows to make that to make me feel committed to watching these right away. I don't know, it's just
Yeah. It feels
Yeah.
like the shows are almost You know how like in comic books there's like issue to issue and then there's like bigger storylines? It almost feels like the shows are those like interval issues. It's like character development's happening, like this is important for the characters. Like you can skip them. Like sure, you can totally skip over Falcon and Winter Soldier and watch whatever project that these characters show up in next, and probably you wouldn't have missed too much other than just like how they became the characters. Same with like WandaVision, but then you're missing out on a lot of like character work and a lot of um like that. But in terms of just sheer plot, like nobody's gonna be upset that they missed watching the Flag Smashers as a villain.
Yeah.
Like from start to finish, I could not care less about the conflict. It
Yeah.
just felt like the conflict was there so that the characters had a conflict amidst what was really just a story about like for in both WandaVision and in Falcon and Winter Soldier. The story at its heart was a personal journey for Wanda and for
Sam.
Sam, and they tacked on a conflict because they needed to have a conflict because everybody needs their superhero action, but ultimately the conflict in both was so like it was so like forgettable that like that's not what I'll remember from either of these shows. What I'll remember from the shows is like those character moments, seeing the characters' families, seeing their struggles, seeing what they're going through, and like appreciate them when I do see them in that next big blockbuster where they're fighting whoever's the major antagonist in the next Captain America or in Doctor Strange too. Like those are, I think that's the formula that Marvel's really setting up now is like the TV shows aren't going to tackle like major conflicts, major villains, major storylines. They're more just going to develop these characters, and those major moments for the plot of the universe are all going to happen in the films, which is fine. I'm okay
Yeah.
with that. But yeah,
I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I understand why they need to make these decisions. Like, okay, not everyone's going to pay for the subscription service and watch 6+ hours of content to basically, basically as homework before they go and watch the next movie per se. Like, right? Like, I understand that, but I feel like it doesn't add any weight. And as for someone who is paying for this service, they want to see some really cool stuff happening. Like, it's great to see Sam's growth from being the Falcon who doesn't want anything to do with the shield. He'd rather have it sit in a museum. And to watch him grow as a character and realize, like, hey, wait a minute, what have I done? Understand the mistake that he had made and eventually accept that mistake and then embrace it. And he makes this very like, because he was scared of that shield and like what it meant, right? And by the end of it, he's grown as in his character, where he's comfortable holding this thing, and he becomes a symbol, just like Steve Rogers embodying hope. And it would have been nice, yes, to see that this journey in the form of a movie, and it was nice to see it all spaced out. But at the same time, I feel like really nothing happened in these 6 episodes. Like the Flag Smashers, okay, one-off terrorist group cell or whatever they are, just like, I don't know how I feel about it. And like this whole thing, like, okay, so the show is 6 episodes, roughly 6 hours in content. And Matteo and I were sitting up, we were like, after we finished watching the finale this like on the Thursday night or the Friday morning, whatever it is, that whenever it was done at midnight, we were just sitting there talking. Really, like, we knew the curveball of Agent Carter's character being the power broker. Like, what, at the end of episode 3? Like, we already saw what was going to happen. Like, okay, they were halfway through the show. They keep mentioning this elusive power breaker. There's only one other character that they have that isn't really doing anything. That seems really out of place in that in the city there, and in that Asian city there. And you're like, okay, Agent Carter's character is going to be the power broker. That's predictable. And we just sat there, kind of like laughed it off. And then in the last episode, when they said that was the case, I'm like, wow, that wasn't it. I feel like her turn to like evil or crime just felt kind of out of place and out of nowhere, because that's totally against
well,
everything that her family stands for.
Well, that's
And considering
so
that her
that was
uncle is Cap, right?
is her uncle
You'd be-
Cap?
yeah,
Cap's not her
because
No.
uncle.
yeah,
No.
because she's
No,
the
he's not.
niece of. I thought she was the niece of
She's
the
Peggy's
original
niece.
Agent Carter. Yeah,
Yeah,
Peggy. She's
Yeah.
Peggy's niece, and if Peggy and Cap got married, by extension,
they didn't
she's
get
the
married.
age. So they were
They
just
didn't because
a fling
it
in the
was
50s.
all that's an alternate timeline. That's like
Yeah.
Cap basically what they clarified just to sidestep here. They clarified later that basically what Cap did was they didn't shift the rules of time, like time travel with the Cap moment in Endgame. Like he didn't go to the past and live out his days. He like went to the past, changed it, like right, which created an altered timeline, lived out his life with Peggy, and then at the end of his life, hopped back into his original timeline to give the shield to Sam.
I
But
still don't
anyway,
like that. I
regardless,
still don't like that decision, but that's another topic for another day.
yeah. But
Anyway,
regardless,
but
I
yeah,
see what you
but
mean.
it just feels like it's really. I don't know. Like, yes, okay, I understand that she got burnt by the government and then Thanos showed up. I'm sorry, but like when a giant interplanetary
Grimace.
the grimace, yeah, let's go with a giant golden nugget on his hands comes and snaps half of reality away. I'm sorry, giving her a pardon is not on the number one to-do list. And like her anger, I feel like it's just really like misplaced. Okay, yes, she survived and became this great crime lord, but it just didn't work in my
But
head, and
see,
I know that it just didn't work for me
see,
either. And I've gone on a tangent and forgot what I was originally talking about because I
I
found something else that bothered
well,
me.
see, to talk about like the Peggy, or sorry, the Sharon Carter twist. Um, I don't think it was meant to be a twist. Like, I don't think the intention was for it to be a twist. I think it was supposed to be somewhat obvious that things were up with her, and it wasn't supposed to be a big moment. And I think the fact that they didn't focus on her much in the series lends itself to that. The other thing too is you were talking about how like she like you don't get her anger, but I never interpreted her actions as anger. I interpreted her actions as like this was the result of her situation. In order to survive, she had to like stoop into the crime life, and she became addicted to it, and she just liked that life better than the one she was leading before. And now
Yeah.
she's just like she just because like the whole idea of the show, like that I can't remember his name, but the director had said like early on was this show is um is about identity, and all four of the main characters, who they said at the time were in the marketing for the show before it came out, were Sam, Bucky, Zemo, and Sharon Carter. And John Walker. All five of them. They said like identity is the main theme for all five of the characters, and it's about them challenging their identities before and like in the wake of the show, like post Cap. So I think that was the idea of like Sharon's identity is like she's you see kind of her descent of like her constantly having to live up to her aunt's name, being like one of the most prominent people in Shield, getting despite having that family relationship, getting completely fucked over by the government, and then having to live off of like just having to live a life of crime forever, and like they never even tried to find her or pardon her at any point. They never even like while all the other like think about it too, like she's probably even like maybe holding on to resentment that Doctor Strange didn't come and grab her. Why didn't she get to be in that shot of all the women from the MCU like all the other ones? Why was Pepper Potts
Yeah.
there and not Agent Carter? So anyway, the point
Never
is, I
thought of
think
it that way.
yeah, I think the idea with her character is like the idea of like she felt she was one person because she lived in a legacy, and once that legacy was removed from her, and once she had to try something else out, she just liked it better, and she's like, why would I give a shit about these people? And now she's just kind of stuck in that, you know.
They're
Yeah, I can
definitely
see.
building. They're definitely like because today or at the time we recorded this episode today, which is the day after the day of, I guess the when the episode came out, they announced Captain America 4. That's gonna be like it's gonna be starring Falcon or Sam Wilson is the main character of that movie. I think she's probably going to be the front runner to be like the villain or like one of the antagonists or whatever in the
She'll play a
movie.
role for sure.
Yeah, like yeah. So I think in a way like she didn't really get that much screen time like at all, like when I think about it, like, because I think she
No,
was introduced like the
third
middle of
episode.
the third episode or something like that. So
Yep.
but
Yeah.
to me, like, she was like, out of all those characters, like the five main characters, she was definitely in it the least. But like, I think the character my favorite character in the whole show, and I don't know about you guys, was my favorites were actually my favorite was actually Zemo. And
I liked
he was
Zemo's
I was
story.
not expecting to like Zemo's character.
yeah, like they totally like I didn't get like any of these like the vibes that he gave off in Falcon the Winter Soldier. I didn't get any of
Shoulder,
those
the Winter
in
Shoulder.
in Civil War. Like, he seemed way more competent. Like, he was more an intellectual villain in Civil War, but you see that he has all these like physical abilities, and like he's super, like, he's okay. They finally like mentioned that he's a Baron of Sokovia, which I think was like, that's something that they probably should have mentioned in uh uh in Civil War, but they didn't. He's super rich. He's got the private jet with the creepy butler guy, and he's got all these assets, like these he's got the cars, and like he had a past, like a villainous past prior to Civil War, it seemed like. But like, he was really funny. Like, he was the show, like, he was the scene stealer in almost every
Yeah,
scene he was in.
completely. The thing about Zemo that I really liked about, like, in this show, is they kind of painted him to be almost like Bruce Wayne was, and like Batman v Superman, right? He's like this rich guy who has a lot of power, a lot of influence, and he feels like he's the hero, right? He feels like he can do good, and then he doesn't trust super soldiers. And in Age of Ultron, he was in that point, or after post Age of Ultron, sorry, he was at that point um, where like Sokovia had been ravaged, kind of as a result of the Avengers' actions, and so he had a lot of anger, and then that twisted his um, ideals into something a more of a vendetta. But now we get to see him kind of chilled out, where he's like, I still think super soldiers are a bad thing, but I can admit that Captain America was like an anomaly to that, right? Like, he's the exception because there's nobody else like Steve Rogers,
Yeah.
which I liked. It was nice seeing him kind of chilled out, where it's like you see that he was never really a bad guy, and what he was trying to do wasn't necessarily bad. It was just he was going about it the wrong way. And then pairing that with the story of like Carly and the Flag Smashers was really cool. The
Yeah,
way
that
they
was
approached themes in this show was very, very great. Like, it was good.
yeah.
I liked that. I just, plot wise, was just
Yeah. Honestly, like, I feel like this could have made a good movie, and the movie would have, I felt like, told a more complete story. To a certain extent, it's just it's weird
The movie,
because
like okay, a movie would be at most 3 hours. I
yeah,
don't know if there was 3 hours worth of stuff they could have cut, but like, they definitely, I felt like there was a lot of points in the show, across like all the episodes. I feel like every episode had like one montage too many, where like they spent way too much time in like something that they shouldn't have, but like, I don't think that would have amounted into enough material to cut out to make a 3 hour movie. I feel like it actually, honestly, I prefer the fact that they went the series route to tell the story of how Falcon became Cap. I actually think that was probably the best decision they could have made. Like,
yeah, I agree.
because then, you know, they sowed a lot of, or they planted a lot of seeds for things that are gonna probably pay off in the future, like more Young Avengers stuff potentially, Thunderbolt stuff, Dark Avengers stuff. like there was a lot, like there's this movie's going to tie into Black Widow, it's going to tie into other things, like it's like it's actually did a lot. I feel like it did almost it, at least just from face value for what you see in the actual show, it did more than WandaVision, but
Yeah.
it's
And
not going
that's
to
the
have as
thing.
big of an impact as WandaVision.
And that's the thing I think we also have to consider is like with WandaVision and with Falcon and Winter Soldier is these are the early days TV series, so they're still introducing characters. So for example, characters like John Walker, right? I don't know if John Walker's ever going to show up in a movie. I don't know. I don't know if his character is a big enough threat, especially post this story, to ever show up in a movie. But introducing characters like this here, like opens up the options for these characters to appear in future series. Like, what if John Walker shows up in Hawkeye? Right? Like, what if there's a conflict with that in Hawkeye, or what if he shows up in like Secret Wars um or Armor or whatever,
Armor
Armor
Wars, I think it's
Wars,
called.
or Ironheart, right? Like I feel like these early shows are going to suffer the like they're going to suffer from the idea of like they have to introduce all these like smaller characters that don't seem like they're going to play out in big ways, and they might never play out in big ways, but they might play out in smaller ways, like in the TV series there might be conflicts that show up in future, like Agatha Harkness might show up in a future like mystical show, right? Like she might not show up in a movie. She's not going to go up against Doctor Strange, but she might go up against, I don't know, like if they do Young Avengers, she might go up against the Young Avengers, right? Like I think these are like little seeds that will help with this larger universe that they're creating, um, in small ways.
I actually wanted
Yeah.
to talk about John Walker for a second, because I'd say like he was like I felt in like the first two episodes, I felt like people were like I get it, like he's the new Captain America. Bucky and Sam like don't like the fact that he's been replaced, but at that point he had done nothing wrong. I felt like they were being like just jerks to him, and like everyone was just being a dick to him for no reason, really.
I mean, but
He,
he was such an asshole.
but I don't think he was at that point. At
But he
that point, he wasn't.
was.
I
But
don't.
he was. He was like showing up. Like Sam and Bucky were like doing stuff. They're on like missions. He was showing up, and he'd be things like, "I'm Captain America. Stay out of my way," or like, "This is my territory" and stuff. And like Sam and Bucky are just sitting there. They're like, "We've literally fought like alien beings. Like, who the hell are
I
you?"
get that,
Some guy from
but
the military who got handpicked by a bunch of white senators to tell us what to do.
Well, we
the
actually only
thing,
ever saw like two of the senators.
Fair.
but anyways, like, and then the point of no return was when he killed that guy. Like, I get it, his friend died, but like, Captain America is supposed to be this global symbol. Like, he's supposed to be the embodiment of America, and he used Steve's shield to decapitate a guy. You can't do that. He should be held responsible for that. But the thing is, he got pardoned because of his service in the military and whatever. And there's parallels to that. What's going on now in the world with like police officers and stuff. I don't really want to get into that, but the thing I feel though is that dude has to go to jail. Like, yes, he did the right thing at the end of the show, where like he saved all those people, whatever. But the fact that like I don't know, like he need like for me like the way that they should use that character. I forgot who said it. I heard it somewhere, but they're like he should be used similarly to how they use like characters from like Suicide Squad. Like he's going to be in jail, and when he do a mission, he comes out of jail and he goes back.
Well,
Like I
that's the
feel like
thing that I agree with you. Like I'm I don't know if you felt this. Like John Walker's actually one of the things that I thought was interesting about the show, but I think the finale just completely did not deliver with him, particularly
he
because
totally 180'd.
right, it was like they they built him up to this point where like he's so obsessed with being Captain America, he's douchey, blah blah, blah, and then he has that breaking point, and then sure the
Shitty
following,
shield.
and then
He
sure
makes
the
the
following,
terrible shield.
but like the following episode before he even makes the shield, the following episode is all about like now he's getting like he's no longer allowed to be Captain America. He's like losing everything, and then Madam Hydra approaches him, and they're like building up this like big downfall to the point where the post credit scene is him like super psycho building the custom shield. And then what happens in the finale? He shows up, doesn't really do anything, and then does a complete 180, and he's like, I'm going to save people. And then he's working with Bucky and Sam, and he's like, I saved the day. And then what happens at the very end of the episode? He's back with Madam Hydra. And it's like, well, like he didn't seem to have a purpose. Like it felt
It's
like
the
they were.
same as my old suit, but it's black. And
It felt like,
it's just
but it just felt like his story was building to something, and
it didn't
what
do
it was,
anything.
what it was like I think all of us were feeling like it was building to something that was going to happen at the end, whereas the build was to the moment where he killed the guy, and then that was it. That was what it was building to. But the story made it seem like that wasn't the end. It made it seem like that was part of the build, and it was going to get even bigger. And like, where can he go from here? If he did this, what can he do next? What crazy thing is he going to do in the final episode that's going to screw everybody over? But then he doesn't do anything, and that's where I
Right.
feel like they really failed with his character.
All the crazy
I
that-
low key when Matteo and I were watching it, when he had a choice between going after I'm terrible with the characters' names, by the way.
Carly
Yes.
Morgan.
When he had a choice to go after her or save the people in the truck, I'm like, please go after her, because that would make sense for your character at this point. And then he's just like, nah, I'm gonna save the people. And I feel
exactly.
just like,
Yeah.
no, you're not supposed to be redeemed.
Yeah, not this early at least. Like
I get that it's a
Let it-
Disney show and everyone has to stay alive, but
it. Oh no! Please don't use that. It's a Disney show thing.
come
Disney
on,
does
let me have
plenty of
just
dark
this one
stuff.
moment of funny.
No,
Let me have this one
Disney does
moment
plenty
of
of
fun.
dark stuff.
Yeah,
No.
that's true.
It had nothing to do with Disney. Nothing.
You know,
to do with
Bambi's
Disney.
mom died. Okay.
It's true.
Oh shoot, I forgot. Spoils. Like 80 years spoils. Or whatever it is, yeah. I don't know. I
Yeah.
really wanted to see him go like full like batshit crazy.
Well, let's kind of use this to segue into something that me and Matteo were saying we should talk about. And he had mentioned this a bit earlier, but
Yeah.
this was something that people thought was going to be the post-credit scene, or that it was building to this, and they never did it, but they still planted the scenes, and now some like credible leakers are coming out and saying both of these things are in development. But one of the things that people were wondering was they were thinking that the show was either building to Thunderbolts because Zemo was in the raft and the raft is controlled by Thunderbolt Ross, or Dark Avengers because Countess
US
blah
agent.
blah blah Madam Hydra had approached US Agent. And now a credible leaker is saying that both of those projects are actually in development right now. So thinking about US Agent with Madam Hydra, who else could be part of a potential Dark Avengers team? Because Dark Avengers is something that could easily be a focal point of like Captain America 4, easily.
Yeah.
But who would be there other than US Agent?
You have US Agent, Zemo could be part. No, not Zemo.
No.
Well,
Zemo
Zemo
will
is-
be in Thunderbolts.
And the
I
Thunderbolt.
feel like it's easier to pinpoint who's going to be on Thunderbolts first. Or I feel like that's easier. But for Dark Avengers, my dream pick. And Jules, do you care if I spoil Daredevil stuff for you? Because
I mean, if you're spoiling that Bullseye and Elektra in the show, I know that.
well, yeah. Well, I was gonna say Bullseye. no, that wasn't what I was going to spoil. But Bullseye. Something happens to Bullseye in the end of the very last scene
He
of
becomes
season
Daredevil.
3. No, the very last scene of season 3, something happens to him that I feel like would be a perfect segue for that character, that interpretation of the character to be put into the MCU.
But doesn't he
So-
become Daredevil?
That's something that happens earlier in the show. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, once he's defeated, like this is like after everything's been resolved, something happens to Bullseye. There's a lot of
Please
like
tell me he throws a bunch of playing cards and the camera goes crazy.
there's a lot of things that can happen. Like there's a lot of ways they can take this, but Bullseye being Hawkeye, like he was in the comics. I think that's what happened, right? Bullseye was impersonating Hawkeye. That would be perfect.
So Bullseye would be the Hawkeye then. You would have U.S. Agent would be the Captain America. They could easily bring this new version of Loki in to be the Thor equivalent.
I mean, like, wasn't Dark Avengers led by like Norman Osborn? But I don't think I feel like
A version of
yeah, I don't think they would do that. I feel like basically aside from US Agent, I feel like they're just gonna like that's the only like I'm not too familiar with them, but like all I know is like I think Venom was on the team, wasn't he?
Yeah.
There was like an impersonator for like
If you're talking about Dark Reign, Dark Avengers, it
I have no
was
idea what I'm talking about. Like I just know I'm thinking of like a cover art. I know there was like a Miss Marvel
But
character. There was
okay,
Bullseye. There was
but if we're just
um,
looking at who we have in the MCU right now, like don't even think about like that. Like in the MCU right
Mhm.
now, who could show up in a Dark Avengers team? And so here's the big difference, by the way, between Thunderbolts and Dark Avengers. So Thunderbolts would be like Suicide Squad esque. They're usually bad guys who end up doing some good stuff. Whereas Dark Avengers are typically going to be villains. They're not going to be doing good stuff. They're going to be posing as if they're doing good things to try and get like to look good in terms of getting favor of the public, but they're actually like ill intentioned, like they're doing bad things. So that's a big difference, right? So Thunderbolts would be more like, here's your characters who are going to get a redemption arc. Dark Avengers are going to be more characters that are going to be doing some bad and shady stuff.
and like that's the thing. Like I feel like for both of these teams, I don't think they're gonna do anything related to Spider-Man because Sony could say no or like who knows how like the rights work there. So like for I don't think they're gonna use Norman. I don't think they're gonna use. I think one of the teams I think had Scorpion or something like that. Matt Gargan or Venom or one of the
Yeah,
other.
Venom.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't think they're in play at all for any of
No,
I
this.
I
honestly
agree.
don't know enough about
And
Marvel comics to probably like add to this,
and
but I'm
but
just
that's what
trying
I
to
mean.
think.
Let's not even that's why I'm saying let's not even focus on comics. I'm just saying with
Yeah.
what we have now in the MCU. Who would you think could show up?
Mordo could be on that team for sure. His
As like a Doctor Strange.
yeah, as like the Doctor Strange equivalent. That'd be really cool, and then it could also tie into any
Yeah.
like magic stuff, right?
Cool. Yeah.
Know who should be brought back to be Iron Man of the Dark Avengers?
Who?
The villain guy from Iron Man 2. The guy that is played by what's his
Whiplash?
face? No, not
Mickey
Whiplash.
Mickey Rourke.
Other
No.
guy. He's a big Oscar-winning actor. No, I
There's
think it's
another one?
Justin Hammer is the other character. Is the
Oh,
character?
Justin Hammer.
Yeah, that would be like totally out of the field. I hate Iron
That
Man
would be
2, but
well
like
out
that
of
would be
field,
hilarious
yeah.
if they brought him back.
I would love to see actually I would love to see the theory from WandaVision pan out. The theory that when Vision restored White Vision to his original programming and he got his memories back, but he still doesn't have like the soul of Vision. Ultron's programming will take over because the thing that overpowered Ultron's programming was ultimately like Jarvis's soul. It was like Vision's soul, but because he doesn't have that, eventually Ultron's programming is going to take over White Vision and Ultron's going to be in control of that body. I would love to see Ultron be part of
That would
the
actually be
Dark
really
Avengers.
cool. I think that
That'd
would
be
be really
cool.
cool, actually.
Because
Be like a Dark
Ultron
Vision.
was kind of done, in Age of Ultron. I feel personally. But
Yeah, he was kind of
back to
Ultron was brought into the universe way too early. Like I just feel like, and like they kind of like tied his story up, and
that's guys. I think we're going just a little bit too far into like theory and like general Marvel stuff. Let's get back to the show here.
Oh no, but
I
that's
don't
what
know,
we were doing. That was the purpose of this podcast.
Yeah, I want to talk about Thunderbolts though for a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We were like we kind of like we were going to start with Falcon and Winter Soldier and then kind of get into like general MCU stuff because I don't know how.
Okay. I was not told about that. I thought we were just strictly talking about the show.
There is a few things I want to talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier at the end though, like just
Alright.
a few like small things, but for Thunderbolts, I'm pretty sure the new Black Widow that's supposed to be introduced in the movie was supposed to be the show, but
No, she's not. She's in Hawkeye.
oh, okay. So Hawkeye's not coming out until later though. So it's going to come out
It's
after
this
that.
year.
But it's after Black Widow comes out.
Yes,
But
Hawkeye will be
um,
near the end of the year.
but I'm pretty sure I'm sort of familiar with Thunderbolts in the comics because I like the Suicide Squad, so I just want to see what Marvel's up to with their Suicide Squad version, their version of the Suicide Squad. But Zemo, I think, often, like more times than not, the leader of, or at least like he's always on a Thunderbolts team. And I think some people, I read things where like Winter Soldier sometimes on the Thunderbolts, and so is Yelena Belova, the other Black Widow. And I feel like they would have sort of like the Rick Flag type position on the Thunderbolts, where or like the Suicides, like Rick Flag's like not a villain, but he's the leader of the Suicide Squad. He's ordered by the government to be the leader of this team. So I feel like either of them would probably be on the Thunderbolts just to carry out that, like to be the person talking to Thunderbolt Ross or whatever. But then I heard a rumor that Ghost or the Ghost or whatever the hell it is from
Oh
and the
yeah, from
Wasp
Ant-Man.
is
Yeah, I heard that too.
is going to be in it. But didn't she get cured at the end of the Ant-Man and the Wasp? I don't remember. I think she got cured, so like she doesn't have any abilities anymore.
I can tell you this much. I don't remember anything from Ant-Man and the Wasp.
But oh, you know what I actually thought of? Who would be going back to Dark Avengers quickly? How about the guy, like either of the guys that they like the villains from the Hulk, Abomination, or the guy that becomes leader?
Well, isn't Abomination going to be in She-Hulk?
Yeah, yeah. But what about the other guy? The guy that
Yeah, the
becomes
leader.
the leader.
But they also
did
have.
nothing with
But
him.
doesn't Thunderbolt Ross become Red Hulk? So couldn't they
Yeah,
just
but
turn him into Red Hulk?
But I don't think he's on the team all the time though. Thing, and who knows if the actors even want to do that, right? That's the other thing.
They don't need him. They just turn him into Red Hulk and he's just CG, and they get somebody else to voice him.
Yeah, I guess, but like other characters that I would really like to be on Thunderbolts, like it's a shame they killed Crossbones. I feel like Crossbones would have been cool.
Yeah.
Type
Well,
of
know who
character to
could
put
be?
there.
Know who
Who?
else could be that we're forgetting? And I mean, this character could be on either, but I would be more inclined to say they'd be on Thunderbolts. But Taskmaster is going to be in Black Widow.
Oh shit, yeah.
Taskmaster would be perfect in Thunderbolts.
I mean, like if like he can copy the fighting styles or whatever, it's fighting styles, right?
Yeah.
Of any fighter, could he'd be perfect on either team. His abilities make sense. I would think. I'm trying to think like who like is more often than not in the MCU like the villain like there's a lot of villains that just die at the end of the movies. So this like the strength of having these characters is like Marvel always likes to go back and like reference like things that have happened before, like in Falcon Winter Soldier, like Agent Carter's mask that she was wearing, like her disguise, like that was something ripped right out of Cap 2, right? Like there's like little nods here and there to other things, and I feel like for Thunderbolts, I really would not want them to introduce characters that are going to be team members in that show or in that movie. Probably, hopefully, a show. I think the best route for either of these projects is for it to be a TV show. But, um, like, I just think that if you introduce a new character, I feel like that kind of takes away from it. And like, if you have all these pre-introduced characters, then you don't have to worry about doing a lot of character development and stuff because they've already had that. Go right into it.
I
How do
think
you guys
having
feel about that?
some new
Obviously, like
characters
a
might be
villain,
okay.
a villain would be perfect. But like, you like I feel like for the team itself, it'd be I just like there's a lot of characters that they could pick from. So like I don't know.
I think
you
they
have
could
the
have like one or two, like if they were to introduce like one major one, right? So like let's say they do Zemo, they do Taskmaster, they do Ghost, maybe they do like they can even bring in some like heroes, right? Like that are just like so like
Winter
let's say
Soldier and Black Widow.
yeah, they could even bring in Elektra or like Punisher.
That's the dream for me. Like, there's so many awesome elements from the Netflix universe that I really want them to bring into the MCU, formally bring them into the MCU. But like, and those are the best parts. Elektra, Daredevil, uh, like Kingpin, like those are the best parts. Like, there's no reason for them not to. So
But that's what I
it's
mean is I think they could introduce like one big character. So like if they introduced like Penance or like Songbird and like that's the introduction to the character, like fine. Like I think it's okay to have one or two. But I think yeah, you're right. Like the main ensemble should be characters we already know because the lead of the show needs to be somebody we already know.
yeah, like because this is the other thing that like it kind of worries me, to be honest with you. Like, if Winter Soldier isn't in the next Captain America movie, where the heck is he gonna be? And do you think they're gonna do another season of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or I guess Captain America and the Winter Soldier now? Like, it's like I feel like by them
I
making a
thought that they
movie
would. Yeah.
kind of complicates things.
I thought that they would until I saw that they announced Cap 4. And I think right now it's very much like if they do it, it'll be after.
Because like they said going into this would be a mini series or a limited series, something like that, right?
They did, but unlike WandaVision, they were almost like they during the show they didn't say like no second season, but almost immediately after the show they were like, yeah, like as you can see, like this was a very self-contained story, and to do another season would kind of like defeat the purpose. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
with Falcon and Winter Soldier during its run, they were constantly comparing it to WandaVision, and the director was saying, like right now, we're not necessarily saying there will be a second season. Right now we focus on the first season, but they said like the ending does not close up the possibility of a second season the way like WandaVision does. Like they could do it, and they said like we left threads open in case we wanted to, right? So
Yeah, I feel like though those threads are going to be carried forward in the movie, and like the movie might create new stuff that then would be carried over into a new season of like another season of the show potentially. But
well, if there's Dark Avengers and there's Thunderbolts and stuff like that, like a lot of this, like hypothetically, this show might not lead into another season of the show because Sam's threads are going to lead into Cap 4. All the threads at the raft with Zemo and stuff are going to lead into Thunderbolts. All the threads with Madam Hydra and US Agent are going to lead into Dark Avengers.
Mhm.
The Sharon Carter stuff will likely lead into both of those shows. Could even bleed into like Armor Wars,
Mhm.
right? Because if she's going to be selling like government secrets,
Why would
Armor Wars might end up following that.
wasn't Armor Wars an Iron Man story where like right? Why
No
would
idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what kind of story it is. All I know is it's from the sounds of it, it sounds like it's about War Machine and like the government getting their hand or like other governments getting their hands on like Stark tech and like
and the suits,
misusing it
right?
and stuff, right?
Mhm.
So like, but that could also bleed into to to Sharon doing some stuff.
But the
Yeah.
main thing I wanted to that I was trying to get at was like if they kind of like I'm kind of like in a way kind of worried about Bucky's future, like at least his immediate future in the MCU outside of the Captain America universe, because like there's a chance like he's not in the movie, like in Cap 4, but like I kind of want him to go out and do his own thing now, and I feel like by putting him in Thunderbolts, if they do go that way, it would probably be the best thing for the character, because then he's not constantly tied down by like the legacy of Steve and stuff, and he can go out and be his own character and do his own thing. And I felt like the ending he had in uh, the show really like put an emphasis on that. Like he's done being Winter Soldier. He that he told the old Japanese guy what he did, and like he put his past behind him and he's ready to move forward. And I really want that for the character. And if they kind of don't do that, I just feel like he's still
And
going to be in the same in a
if they
rut.
put him in Thunderbolts, he can have that really awkward like interaction with Zemo if Zemo's in that show too. And like that was such a great dynamic, those two.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and it would give us
Agreed.
more of that, which would be nice.
He could even show up in the Wakanda TV series.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that. We didn't even talk about how the
the Wakandans were the show.
Yeah.
That was the best moment. For me, it was the best moment. My favorite moment of the show was when. Hold on, give me 1 sec. I need to say this correctly.
I think her name was Io or something like that.
But it was when John Walker's like, the Dora Milaje have no authority here, and then she's like, the Dora Milaje have authority where the Dora Milaje like choose or whatever, like, and it was like so intense. And it was just like
crap out of him.
It was just like highlighting that moment of like, yeah, like
he's got no idea what he's about to get himself into.
And
exactly, right?
Like going back to like John Walker's character, like he's just ignorant of everything that exists outside of his own like I'm an ex-soldier. Yeah, because he doesn't know like all of the like what was his experience with the Wakandas? What's his experience with aliens? And it's just like he's just this ignorant guy that's just been literally like here's Cap, you have a good military record. Be our pawn. And it's just I know I'm kind of going back into his character, and I know you guys have kind of talked about that already, but it's just like I just thought about that right now, and when you mentioned the that one intense scene there, Jules, I'm like, oh, this is what I wanted to say before.
Like the last thing I kind of wanted to talk about, and it's going to be a quick topic, but like the Falcon suit, or I guess now it's Captain suit. I feel like they nailed everything. Costume, like the colors are awesome. The wing, like I like the fact that like his combat style is gonna be a little different. He does a lot of flips and like a lot of aerial things. That's really cool. The jetpack, like thruster pack itself, the fact that that was used a lot in the show was really awesome. I never thought about that, but like I feel like I can't take the guy seriously when his ears are sticking out of his cowl like that. Everything from his shoulders up don't work for me. Like the shoulders just seem like way too wide and like puffy and out. And then he's got the thing I can't stand about like what DC does with Nightwing sometimes with the cowl. How it's like, first of all, I hate the fact that like some of these cowls were like their head's not covered, like you can see like their hair and stuff. I can't stand that. And the other thing is just like the ears stick out of the suit, and like that just doesn't seem like practical at all. Like the guy's gonna be flying around fast, and like you're gonna want your head protected, like you have your top of your head exposed and your ears. Like it just doesn't make sense to me, and it looks so dumb. Like his ears like literally look like the hole looks like a little too small, and his ear like looks super bent all the time. I hope they fix that. It's super minor, but like
it's a little
I was
thing.
like the complete opposite of you. I was like, one of the things that I've really loved about these TV shows is both with Scarlet Witch and with Sam Wilson's Captain America. I thought the suits were like spot on, perfect, like so good. I loved his suit. I was worried for a bit. That was one thing I was worried.
It looked great, but the headpiece is just it needs a little. It just needs to be tweaked just a little bit.
Yeah,
like if they give him like
at least conceal the ears, please.
Yeah, or at least.
Well, but that's like how it is in the comics.
Snoopy cap.
I know, but like they've changed. They've taken their creative liberties with other suits. But it's super minor. But that's
he needs ears.
That's my hot take there. But Oh, and lastly, the other thing I just thought about was the VFX in this show were pretty damn good for TV show. I
Yeah,
feel like the VFX were really spotty sometimes in WandaVision, but they were pretty dang good in Falcon the Winter
yeah.
Soldier.
But
And
I
a
mean, to
lot
be
and
fair,
it was
comparing
very
magic,
convenient. But this is the thing though, like they saved a lot of money by shooting like every action scene almost in like an abandoned location where like no
yeah,
one could like, oh, let's film in this abandoned factory. Oh, let's go to this empty room in this hotel. Let's go to this empty like boardroom in this or like everything like every fight scene happened like almost every fight scene happened in an empty room where like you don't have to hire extras, you don't have to do anything like that. It's just that like they could just go whatever they do whatever they want to do. I found that hilarious.
Yeah, it's
But
pretty funny. I kind of picked up on that stuff also. But
but you guys have anything else to add for either Falcon
no.
Winter
I
Soldier or
honestly,
future MCU
for
stuff?
me, I'm pretty good. I don't know, Gino.
yeah,
Yeah.
I had fun with this show. I was entertained. Um, could they have told a more cohesive like I feel like story? Maybe it wasn't like a 4 out of 10, but it wasn't like an 8 or 9 out of. I'd put this like happily at a 6 or 7 out of 10 if I was to give the show a ranking. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong; it was good. I enjoyed it. I had
It
fun.
was enjoyable. Yeah,
I just wish that they took more risks in these shows.
I'm sure they will as time goes on. These are the
Well,
early ones, right? Like
this show like
this was
it
intended
was
to be
the
the first
biggest
one.
debut. It was the biggest debut for any like Disney Plus show, and like it broke all the records. It's like the show did like phenomenal that they like it's such a like the numbers were out of this world that they announced Captain America 4 the day the last episode came out. Like that's how well that show did.
Yeah,
It broke
yeah,
Mandalorian. It broke like it. This is probably like this is set. This is the benchmarking for in terms of like ratings
Yep.
that they get. So
yeah. And we'll see
that
how.
might that
Yep.
might entice Disney to
But
take a few
Matteo,
more
I must
risks.
ask you this though: the first episode of the show didn't do as good as everyone thought because 6 weeks ago, what came out?
Oh, duh! Friggin' Snyder Cut.
Okay, you already had your
Exactly.
Snyder Cut episode. We're talking Marvel right now. Um,
Just had to slide
Gotta
the
sneak
DC
it
stuff
in.
in there.
Gotta sneak. Well, we talked about other few DC things before, but
Yeah.
yeah. But
um,
oh, by the way, Jules, random fact of trivia here, just before we close out. The guy that played Isaiah Bradley throughout the entire time watching the show, I'm like, where do I know this guy from? Where do I know this guy from? So familiar. He played Martian Manhunter's dad in Supergirl. If you didn't know
oh,
that,
I don't think I got to that point. So
yeah, I think it was in season 3. It was he was like could not stand the character, original character, but
the other thing
he
that's
went from
cool
that
too.
and he went to be Isaiah Bradley, which is really
But
cool.
so did you know this? This is one other tidbit I'll mention that I think is really cool. And hold on, I'm just as I'm talking right now, I'm just gonna make sure that I am
Checking
uh
yourself.
yeah, I'm just gonna fact check to make sure I'm not spreading some fake news here, but I'm just gonna check. Give me one sec. Um duh, 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 duh. Maybe I'm wrong.
Wait, what were you thinking?
I could have sworn when I read about Isaiah Bradley being introduced that he like or at least they alluded to it in one of the earlier like Marvel like no when they used to have those one shots.
Mm-hmm.
Um I could have sworn that like one of the ones that they had done earlier on kind of like talked about Isaiah
Didn't they?
Bradley's thing and like
Maybe like they just like glanced over
I
it.
might be wrong though. I thought I had read something about that, but now that I'm fact checking it,
Yeah.
it looks like I'm wrong. So just let's pretend.
I wish they kind of did like a flashback sequence with Isaiah Bradley because like apparently his comic that came out like he was only in like one comic but it was supposed to be really really good. Aside like the art style was pretty controversial but the story was really good. And his grandson, the guy that the other guy that was in the show with him, he actually is a young Avengers character.
Eli
Oh,
That
Bradley.
could be a cool tie-in.
Yeah.
Well,
so
in any case, I think we should probably wrap
Close it
up,
off.
but
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to talk more MCU in the future. We got Black Widow and Loki are coming up. Marvel's What If is going to drop at some point. And further down the road, there's Shang-Chi and Eternals and Spider-Man and Hawkeye.
Yeah.
and we will also probably not discuss the Marvel Avengers game DLC. So do not look forward to listening to anything about that.
35 to 50% off microtransactions right now.
Still too expensive.
Yes, I'm sure 35 to 50% off microtransactions for all 0 players are going to make them a bunch of money that is going to change the face of that game. Anyway, I think this is a good place to end it for now. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. If you've made it this far, make sure to like and subscribe again. Unless you're a Gino fan, then don't. If you're following us on Spotify, make sure to download and tell your friends. And yeah, what do you think? This is a pretty fun one, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.